It turns out the most important conversation of the New York Knicks' 2026 playoff run happened behind closed doors, when Karl Anthony Towns walked up to head coach Mike Brown and asked for a bigger role, not a small tweak, not a minor adjustment, a full reimagining of how the offense would be structured around the big man from the Dominican Republic. The boldness of the ask matched the magnitude of the results that followed. Hey, what's up everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do, and honestly the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes this further. So hit it now. Hey, what's up everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do, and honestly, the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes this further. So hit it now. The Knicks were trailing the Atlanta Hawks 2-1 in the first round of the playoffs when Towns made his move. Ahead of Game 4 in Atlanta, he approached Brown with an idea: use him as the primary playmaking hub. Let the ball flow through him. Let him read defenses, make decisions, and distribute from the high post and elbow. Brown and his staff listened, and more importantly, they agreed without hesitation or reservation. Towns confirmed the exchange to reporters from the New York Post, describing how he expressed his feelings and his ideas to the coaching staff and received a positive response. His words were simple and direct. He spoke his mind. The idea was received, and the team went in a completely new direction. That direction has been nothing short of extraordinary. In the 3 games leading up to his request, Towns was averaging around 52 touches per 36 minutes, already a healthy number for a center. In the 7 games since that conversation, that figure jumped to 70 touches per 36 minutes. Before the playoff run began, during the regular season, Towns averaged about 61 touches per 36. The increase is dramatic by any standard, and it represents a fundamental shift in who controls the flow of the Knicks offense on a possession-by-possession basis. What makes this shift even more remarkable is the timing. Most coaching staffs are not open to wholesale offensive overhauls deep into a playoff run, let alone more than 85 games into a season. Teams typically stick with the familiar, particularly when the pressure is highest and the margin for error is smallest. Brown and the Knicks went the other way entirely, embracing a radical change and committing to it fully. That kind of institutional flexibility and trust is rare at any level of basketball, and it deserves genuine recognition. The results have been historic. Since Towns was repositioned as the playmaking anchor, New York's offensive rating has soared to 137.9, the highest among all remaining playoff teams, and a staggering 12.3 points better than the next best unit in the field. The Knicks have been torching opponents night after night, setting point differential records and making opposing defenses look completely helpless. No team in these playoffs has been able to consistently slow them down. Towns himself has been transformed into something new. His patience in the pick and roll, his size advantage at the elbow, and his vision as a passer have turned him into something opposing coaches genuinely struggle to plan against. He is making reads that few big men in NBA history could execute. He is threading passes through traffic, turning mid-range possessions into layup opportunities for teammates, and initiating offense off live dribbles, a wrinkle that has been particularly difficult to contain. What Minnesota never fully unlocked, New York has found in the most crucial stretch of the season. The ripple effects across the roster have been stunning. Michael Bridges, freed by the spacing Towns creates, has been shooting at an elite level. Jalen Brunson, asked to operate off the ball more than at any point in his Knicks tenure, is still averaging 25 points per game. The Knicks are not sacrificing their stars to accommodate Towns. They are elevating everyone simultaneously. Josh Hart brings relentless energy, and the team as a whole has found a cohesion that carries real championship-level weight. The Eastern Conference Finals begin Tuesday, and New York carries this offensive identity into the toughest test of the season. The opponent will be either the Detroit Pistons or the Cleveland Cavaliers. Either way, the Knicks arrive having unlocked a weapon even their most optimistic fans could not have predicted at the start of this postseason. Credit belongs to Brown and the players for their open-mindedness and willingness to adapt, but the origin traces back to Towns having the self-awareness and conviction to walk into a meeting room and ask for more. He said something. The team listened, and nothing has been the same since. The bigger picture here is worth pausing on. This Knicks team has spent years trying to find an identity that works at the highest level. Various rosters, various coaching approaches, various offensive philosophies have come and gone through Madison Square Garden without producing a deep playoff run. What this version of the team has done, specifically in the weeks since Towns raised his hand and spoke up, is find something that not only works, but works at a historically dominant level. General manager Leon Rose brought the pieces together. Mike Brown built the system. The players execute it night after night. But sometimes the season turns on a single conversation, a single moment of honesty and self-belief. Karl Anthony Towns had that conversation when it mattered most, and the New York Knicks are better for it. The New York Knicks are entering the Eastern Conference Finals with a roster that looks more complete than it has at any point this postseason. OG Anunoby is expected back in the lineup. Jalen Brunson continues to lead the offense. Karl Anthony Towns is playing the best basketball of his career as a playmaking hub. But there is another name that could quietly determine whether New York finally breaks through to the NBA Finals for the first time since the 1998-99 season. Miles McBride. The 25-year-old guard has had a relatively quiet postseason overall. He has been solid but not spectacular, a reliable piece off the bench rather than a star moment maker. That changed in Game 4 of the second-round series against the Philadelphia 76ers. Filling in as a starter for the injured Anunoby for the second consecutive game, McBride delivered one of the most electric individual performances of the Knicks' entire playoff run. He scored 25 points in just 29 minutes and shot an almost unreal 7 of 9 from three-point range. His confidence was unmistakable. He stepped into shots, knocked them down in rhythm, and refused to shrink from the moment in a series-clinching context. That kind of performance raises a question heading into the conference finals. Can McBride do it again? Not necessarily 25 points. The Knicks are not asking him to be the primary scorer, but if he can continue shooting at or near the 39.1% clip from three-point range he has posted in the playoffs, he becomes a genuine problem for any defense that tries to double the ball handlers and leave shooters open on the perimeter. The matchup context matters. As of Sunday, the Knicks were waiting to find out whether they would face the Detroit Pistons or the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 1 on Tuesday night. Both opponents present different challenges. The Cavaliers, despite being a talented and well-coached group, have struggled to contain opponents from three-point range this postseason, allowing teams to shoot 38% from deep, one of the worst marks among remaining playoff teams. That is an opening McBride can exploit directly. The Pistons, on the other hand, have been tighter defensively from distance, holding opponents to 33.5% from three. That would make McBride's job harder. And the history between the two is not entirely encouraging. In last year's playoff matchup against Detroit, McBride averaged just 3.8 points per game while shooting 26.3% from long range. That performance would not cut it in a conference finals environment. Regular season data, however, offers some encouragement. Against Cleveland earlier this year, McBride came off the bench and contributed 15 points on 4 of 6 3-point shooting in 25 minutes. In a January matchup against Detroit, a game the Knicks lost badly, he still managed 20 points with 5 of 6 3-pointers made and 5 rebounds. He can produce against both of these teams. The question is whether the playoff stage amplifies or limits him. Beyond his offensive role, McBride carries real defensive responsibilities. Both Detroit and Cleveland have capable bench contributors who will look to score in spots. McBride's quickness and intensity on that end of the floor makes him a natural matchup option against smaller, quicker ball handlers. His two-way value could be decisive in close games where the margin between winning and losing comes down to individual stops and individual buckets in the fourth quarter. Coach Mike Brown has built a roster where the bench cannot simply be along for the ride in a conference finals. The starters carry enormous weight, but the Knicks' second unit needs to at least hold serve and ideally steal a few possessions here and there. Mitchell Robinson's interior presence, Landry Shamet's shot making, and McBride's ability to do both sides of the ball will all be tested at the highest level of the Eastern playoffs. For McBride specifically, the stage is set for something bigger. He has shown he can deliver the big moment. He has shown he can take over a game when the opportunity presents itself. Now the Knicks need that version of him to show up in the most important series of the season. If he can channel the energy and confidence of his Game 4 performance against Philadelphia and bring it into the conference finals, New York's path to the NBA Finals becomes significantly smoother. The last time McBride scored 20 or more in a playoff game before this run was Game 6 of the 2024 semifinal series against the Indiana Pacers. He put up 20 points on efficient shooting. But the Knicks lost that game by 13 and were eliminated from the playoffs in part because Anunoby was unavailable. That memory stings for everyone in the organization. This time around, the Knicks have a healthier, deeper roster, and the circumstances are different. What New York needs from McBride is not perfection. It is presence. It is the willingness to catch and shoot in rhythm, to guard the opponent's best perimeter scorer off the bench, and to give the starters a genuine rest without the team falling apart. In the games he has been capable of all three, the Knicks have been nearly impossible to beat. If you needed a sign that OG Anunoby is fully back, the 28-year-old forward gave it to the New York Knicks and their fans in the most perfectly on-brand way possible. Ask directly whether he has been sprinting in practice, a question that had quietly become the most important health update in the organization over the past 10 days. Anunoby responded with a pause, a half-smile, and a carefully worded non-answer that somehow confirmed everything. 7 syllables, 0 wasted words, maximum information delivered with minimum expression. That is OG Anunoby. The story behind the question is worth understanding. Anunoby suffered a right hamstring strain during the second-round series against the Philadelphia 76ers. The injury forced him to miss time at a critical moment, but the Knicks managed to sweep the Sixers in 4 games anyway, thanks in large part to Miles McBride's extraordinary stepping-up performance and the continued brilliance of the starting unit. During the days that followed, recovery updates were vague and carefully guarded. Head coach Mike Brown confirmed that Anunoby participated in parts of practice but declined to say whether he was sprinting, a key benchmark for hamstring recovery. A player who cannot sprint at full speed cannot guard perimeter players, cannot run the floor in transition, and cannot make the explosive cuts that define his defensive impact. Without confirmation on that front, real optimism remained difficult to sustain. Then came the practice session days before the Eastern Conference Finals opener. Anunoby was again not in uniform, yet Brown said he was a full participant. That news was encouraging. What was even more clarifying, and vastly more entertaining, was Anunoby's exchange with a reporter from the New York Post who simply asked him directly, "Are you sprinting?" The awkward silence, the hint of amusement on his face, and his eventual response told the whole story without spelling it out. Fred Katz of The Athletic posted the clip, and Knicks fans everywhere immediately understood he is back. For those who have followed this team closely, the relief is substantial. Anunoby was arguably the Knicks' most impactful two-way player at the time of the injury. Before going down, he had evolved into something beyond his already excellent defensive reputation. He was scoring with startling efficiency, nailing 67.2% of his two-point attempts and 53.8% of his three-point attempts in the postseason up to that point. He was averaging 21.4 points, and the question being genuinely debated among analysts was whether he had become the team's second best offensive option ahead of Karl Anthony Towns. That production may take some time to fully return. Hamstring injuries are notoriously difficult to predict in terms of recovery trajectory. Anunoby has been away from full competitive action for roughly 2 weeks by the time the conference finals begin Tuesday. There may be some rust. There may be a minutes restriction early in the series as the coaching staff manages his workload. But his return at any level of effectiveness is a significant boost for a Knicks team that is already the most dominant offensive unit left in the playoffs. The defensive dimension of his return is equally important, and perhaps more immediate. Anunoby has long been regarded as one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, a long-armed, quick-footed forward who can guard multiple positions and disrupt passing lanes with his activity and anticipation. Against either Detroit or Cleveland, his ability to guard the opponent's best wing scorer takes genuine pressure off other defenders and allows Brown to deploy more versatile lineups across different game situations. Mikal Bridges has been exceptional in the postseason. Jalen Brunson has been the pulse of the offense. Towns has reinvented himself as a passing hub. But the Knicks with a healthy Anunoby are a different team, deeper, more defensively complete, and harder to exploit from any angle. His personality may be famously understated, and his press conference answers may never trend for their eloquence. But when OG Anunoby laces up his sneakers and takes the floor Tuesday night in the Eastern Conference Finals, the message to every remaining playoff team will be loud and clear: the Knicks are whole again. The broader significance of his return extends beyond individual matchups. Since Anunoby went down, the team has had to redistribute his defensive responsibilities across the roster, a workload that adds fatigue to players who are already deep into a long playoff stretch. Brunson, Bridges, and Josh Hart have all absorbed extra defensive assignments in Anunoby's absence. Having him back means those players can operate within more manageable roles, preserving their energy for the offensive end, where the Knicks have been so historically effective. The broader significance extends beyond individual matchups. Since Anunoby went down, defensive responsibilities have been redistributed across the roster, adding fatigue to players deep into a long playoff stretch. Brunson, Bridges, and Josh Hart absorbed extra assignments in his absence. Having him back means those players return to more manageable roles, preserving energy for the offensive end where New York has been so historically dominant this postseason.